Hi, I'm Tom Eschen, the host of this Power and Politics podcast, a conversation about the issues that are impacting you the most with the people that are making those decisions and the advocates, too, holding them accountable along the way. Today, we continue our 2025 Albany mayoral race coverage, speaking with the fourth candidate thus far, Dan Cerutti. We speak with him about the proposed $400 million in state funding to the city of Albany, where he thinks that should go. We also speak to him returning to Albany about a decade ago and why he says it wasn't the same from when he left, and also why he wants to stay. We talk about policing, what he thinks of Brendan Cox, the interim police commissioner, and what he envisions for policing moving forward. We talk about housing, inclusionary zoning ordinances, along with that sanctuary city moniker that Albany currently holds. Thanks so much for listening and watching. As always, you can watch and listen wherever you get your podcasts at Power and Politics or on our YouTube page at CBS 6 Albany. Dan, thanks so much for coming on with us.
Great to be here.
He does have some competition. We've spoken to them. Of course, you can see all those interviews right now on our website. And this is an approaching primary, too, everyone. June 24th isn't that far away, so that's why we're continuing to cover this race for you. Let's begin, though, with one of the moments in question here in Albany, and that's this proposed state funding, which I think has been a topic we've talked about since the governor proposed it just a few weeks ago. $400 million overall for the city of Albany. Mm-hmm. How do you think that should be allocated? Where should that money go?
Well, first of all, I applaud the governor and her team for recognizing that we need it. This is fabulous. I think we need to take our time. We don't need to rush. The thing I think about the $400 million is to think about it as an investment, not a grant, not a handout. We need to figure out ways to use it to attract other investments, right? So I know we have to do something in Liberty Square, not a open air part-time stadium, but something multi-purpose, sports and entertainment oriented. I want to do some development in the parcel where the central warehouse is, access to the water. I'd love to bring and attract an employer to the Kenwood Estates. I consider Lark Street part of downtown. So there's a lot of things we have to do. We have to fix some of our basic problems, right? Public safety and housing. But overall, this is an absolute tremendous opportunity.
You're thinking big picture here.
Absolutely.
You mentioned the word investment, which I think is important, because I think you look at the ARPA funding over the course, the millions that were allocated to Albany County, all the municipalities here, and that was for long-term investments. You see this as the same token of the same point.
I think much longer, right? Yeah. The $80 million in ARPA money we spent, we invested it. We, in general, didn't generate jobs, right? We didn't use it to bring in other investment. I'd like to see the $400 million turn into $2 billion of investment into Albany, which means we have to bring developers and people who think outside the box and money into Albany. We have the opportunity.
That leads me to my next question. You're someone that is from Albany originally. You're back in Albany. You had left for different reasons over the course of the years, but you've returned almost a decade now, right? Yeah. And some of your campaign materials say you were surprised at what you found when you came back. What does that mean?
Well, look, the world changed over the years, and city had flight. Right? All cities across the country had flight, and that's okay. What I found in Albany is that we didn't refresh it. We didn't bring new things in. Right? The nanotech work, which is 20 years old, the nanotech complex out in Fuller Road was a great development, but it's on the edge of the city, and the people who work in that complex weren't attracted into the city. Right, so that they live north and in Colony and other kinds of places, right? So over time, I think the city just got a little staler, right? And we have more people on our streets. We have holes where houses have been torn down. I don't want to see another brownstone. I don't want to lose another one. And we have businesses that are leaving, and so we got to revitalize and refresh Albany. And again, this investment, this understanding from the governor and her team that we need this is just. It's just incredible.
How do you attract a business or keep a business? What has to be there for them? What's their incentive?
Well, it's with any business, it's return on investment, right? But that starts by making our streets safe. If our streets are not safe and people are not comfortable and customers and people in other areas in the city are not willing to come into the city, then that's sort of the beginning, right? And we need to do that, and we will. The second part is the city needs to be easier to deal with. We're not the easiest city in the place to deal with. We need. I'd like to create a culture of service. I'd like to change our attitude and do everything we can to make working with the city of Albany good. Now, the final piece is the way you take an investment, right, and parlay it, if you will, right, is to go to. So suppose you have $80 million to invest in a mall, right? And you're not willing to do it with Albany in the state that it's in. But if I said to you, I'll make sure you get the land, I'll do something over 20 years with tax abatements, and I'll give you $20 million. Now your business plan closes, and you're investing $100 million, and 20 of it was mine. That's what we have to do over and over again. In some cases, it'll be more money, but we got to have a comprehensive plan for all of Albany.
We have Brendan Cox, the interim police chief. Different philosophy than Eric Hawkins had over the course of the last 6 years or so. Which one do you align more with? I know that Brendan Cox is the interim chief right now, but when it comes to policing, where do you stand?
Chief Cox has it right. Community policing is required. We need more engagement in the communities. That means we have to rebuild our ranks. We're down too many officers to do that. And so I think he's got it absolutely right. At the same time, the bigger public safety problem is the people we have on our streets. They have mental health issues. They have substance abuse issues. They're poor. We need to help them. We need to do more to help them with treatment and places to stay, beds.
So let's talk a little bit more about the public safety. You talked about the people on the streets. Is that a quality of life issue for you? What is that? How is that impacting people in a negative way right now?
I think it impacts.
From your perspective,
I think it impacts our entire city. We have far too many people who need our help. They need our compassion. They need our support. They don't need to be incarcerated. There's just too many of them. The substance abuse problem and the availability of cheap drugs is significant. I walk the city all the time, and I find needles everywhere. And those people need help. The people who have mental health challenges need help. So that's a question of coordinating and enhancing our treatment facilities. And as I said, finding places for them to stay. And I'm not talking about some big, huge homeless shelter, right? A lot of these people aren't homeless, right? They're poor and they're down on their luck. And so they need our help. And I'd like to see those people in neighborhoods around the city. We have a lot of empty buildings, right? So that's number one. And then in conjunction with that is community policing and everything else that you understand.
Let's get to housing when it comes to that conversation, because you look at the conversation, I guess it was a bit of a conflict we had with the Common Council and the mayor's office over the course of the last couple of years regarding this inclusionary zoning, veto from the mayor and trying to include this that was overridden by the Common Council for developers to include a portion systemically with new developments of affordable housing. Where do you stand in that conversation? Is that the right way to grow affordable housing?
So, inclusionary housing is a perfectly acceptable idea. It's worked in many cities in New Jersey. It worked in Boston as much as 20%. However, timing matters. We are not in a place where 13% at the top tier of a multi-unit dwelling can be dedicated and basically subsidized. It's too much. And the result is less starts, and developers I've talked to who are done. They're done building large units in Albany. So it's ill-timed, perhaps idealistically good, but ill-timed. So the mayor has this one right. So that's something we have to turn. Now we go back to 5%. And then maybe ratchet it up over time. And maybe the money that we get from the state and the vitality and the vibrancy that we create allows us to ratchet that back up. We do need affordable housing, more of it. We also need more market rate units. We also need many more owner-occupied homes. And as I said, we need beds for folks who need our help. So we need housing across the board.
How do you incentivize that then, if for the developer to come in and make specific affordable market rate housing? Because a lot of developers will push themselves away from that because it's not going to give them as much at the bottom line at the end of the day.
So maybe we can use some of the money, right, to subsidize in the short term to spur development. Maybe we can just ratchet the inclusionary housing down and raise it over time. But fundamentally, if the city isn't safer and more attractive, they're not coming anyway. So we got to fix these problems, but it should all be part of a comprehensive plan to revitalize Albany.
Let's circle back to the community policing aspect too, that we just mentioned. And I wanted to ask about the social worker implementation into the Albany Police Department. It's taken a little while. First it was 20, then it was 10, then they were trying to hire a supervisor. So it's been a bit of a process. Do you think a social worker embedded within the police department is a good idea, a bad idea? Do you think that's the step in the right direction to help address some of these, especially these mental health issues that could be happening on the streets?
I think it's a good idea. I went to the Chief Hawkins' first discussion about this, and it was 20, and then it was 10, and then it was 5. But one of the fundamental problems is they're in the north and south precincts. They need to be out on the street. So I think we need more of them. I think they need to be trained. I think the police force needs to be trained in figuring out how to use them. This has been tried across the country. we've had some success. We've got to push it. We have to figure out how to do this, but we have to do it on scale because 2 or 3 people aren't going to make a difference, right? We need a lot more of the social workers embedded, if you will. So we got to figure this out.
You know, you mentioned some of these big projects, and I think that's something that I've been really interested in. And you hear them, you know, they have there's opportunity here, and it's just been a very slow process in moving them, which is understandable to a point. But you mentioned Central Warehouse and the waterway proposals that have been going on. You mentioned the old Doane Stewart School, which now almost we're up to 2 years since it burned down. Of course, before that it was decrepit and vacant. And then you mentioned Liberty Park, and there's a lot of different big projects here. How do you wrap your head around all of that? And I mean, Central Warehouse now, it looks like there's a path forward, right, in terms of demolition.
Excuse me. Yeah, there's a path forward to remove the structure.
Right. So what's after that?
Yes, I'm talking about a plan to open that up. So the way you wrap your head around this is you take your time, months, not years. You bring smart people in who have done things like this before. You make sure we have all the stakeholders involved at some level. You talk to people in the communities where each of these projects would exist. And then you think about each of them separately. They're separate projects, right? I want to get something going in the Central Warehouse, in Liberty Square, in the Kenwood Estates, in the Harriman campus, right? And St. Rose, and St. Rose is off to a fabulous start, right? They won't all work. They won't all work as fast, right? But you have to have parallel efforts, and we'll learn from them, right? I want to take a couple city blocks, Pearl Street, if I have my way, from State to Sheridan, and revitalize it, right? The way cities come back is block by block. You don't do everything at once, right? So these are complex projects, but they're the kinds of things I've done. Not this particular kind of work, but these are projects that people know how to do. Smart, thoughtful thinking. We have the capital. We just got to make sure that we do it right.
You mentioned Pearl Street, and we were out there recently, and the people were like, "Wow, we're glad you're coming down to show people what's going on here." And you're right there to the South End grocery store, which is now defunct. And that's another thing we could talk about for days. But I guess I'm wondering, what have you heard, from people in those neighborhoods? What are they saying? What do they want?
Well, I've met with people in every single neighborhood in the city, and I mean that. We need, and this is the result of talking to people about grocery stores, since you brought this up. We need a grocery store. When I mean a grocery store, I mean a little plaza of some sort. In the North End. We need one in the South End. And I'd like one in the center of the city, right? So that's part of the project. And I've talked to somebody who has done this for many years and would be open to doing 3 plazas. And that's the kind of thing. Those are elements of the revitalization plan and how to spend the $400 million. But we need to think through this stuff.
Does that get people from outside the city coming in? Who is that for?
That's for the people who live in the neighborhoods, right? What you need to do to get people from outside is venues that attract people. And it's not just people from Colony and Delmar and Gilliland. We need to make Albany an upstate destination. Why isn't it the upstate destination, right? Because people come and they stay in hotels that we don't have enough of downtown, right? So this is a comprehensive thought, but the core entertainment venues are things like a year-round, multi-use sporting arena, right? We talk about soccer. Sure, bring a soccer team in. Why don't we also bring the platoons down there, right? Maybe baseball, I don't know, right? But this is a covered stadium of some sort. Music, right? There's a circus. There's a lot of things we can do. But we need reasons for people to come down, in addition to nightlife and music. Music and arts bring people to cities
and keep them there. Because I think some of the conversation has been people come in for a concert at MVP Arena and then they leave. They're done. And I think some of the challenge has been to have people stay in the city to either for the nightlife or to go get a bite to eat afterwards. Right?
100%. Streets need to be safe. Cities, vendors and service providers and places need to be encouraged to stay open. Maybe we have special policing and safety. You got to sort of think this thing through. But We're not new. I mean, this has been done a lot of times, and we'll get this done.
And you think about people coming in and then investing in the neighborhood themselves. I wonder, and I've had this conversation with some of your competitors as well in this race, is what do you want Albany's identity to be? Because some have said, well, we have too much of a state role here. We have too much of that feel of lawmakers. We need more of a community feel. I guess, who do you want to see in Albany? Well, what do you want that to look like, and what kind of identity do you think you want it to relate to? As you've mentioned, things have changed a lot, and maybe this could be an opportunity to, I don't know, rebrand is the right way to put it, but actually show Albany in a different light.
So I think we have to take advantage of what we have. So look, Albany's a political city. That's great, right? The lawmakers say, I don't want to change that, right? Albany has 2 incredibly great health systems, right? We don't want to change that. Albany has 6 colleges, right? We had 7. These are fabulous schools, right? There are 19 schools in the area. What we don't have is fun, right? We've lost the fun, right? So people need to want to come into the city to have fun. So if I had an identity vision, and I don't think it's that simple, I'd like to make Albany a lot more fun and keep all that we have. The MVP Arena is a huge draw. I want to bring the NCAA, some NCAA tournament game back. I've been working, and others have, to bring a set of games here this summer. I think it's going to happen. I know somebody who's involved in that business. So we got to keep doing these kinds of things. We got to open up our streets. We had a speedo race down Lark Street. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I did not participate.
I know.
But
Matt will have fun getting that B-roll.
People had a lot of fun. Yeah. And you know what their complaint was? As soon as the race ended, the road opened up. Yeah. Keep it closed for 4 hours. Yeah. Encourage people to come down. So
yeah, I could say
stuff like that.
I could say I think I've run the last couple of years in the Mohawk Hudson River Marathon, and you end their Jennings Landing over there, and I struggled to find a place to have lunch, because it was a Sunday afternoon and a lot of places aren't open. So I think you do lead onto something there. So I think that's interesting. And I asked about the makeup of the city as well, because of course we're in this this time of immigration and an influx that happened here. And I think a lot of people, advocates I spoke to said, yeah, like they're going to help the economy. They're going to provide, diversity here. And then you have the other side of the coin that says some people are here illegally and now they're causing issues, whatever that conversation might be. And I guess you have the sanctuary umbrella under all of that.
I see.
So in that mindset, would you try to keep that moniker? Would you try to do something with sanctuary status, or leave it the way it is? I think right now, the way we've talked about it and asked about it, and the way the mayor sees it, if you want to talk about county level with Dan McCoy or the sheriff, they say, well, it's just a saying or whatever. The mayor says, we just don't ask you what your status is if you're the victim of a crime or you're trying to get a license for your pet. How do you look at that? How do you look at this term, sanctuary?
Let me start by saying that Albany has been a city of immigrants for 400 years. That's a strength. It might be our biggest strength.
I believe it's a port of entry still. I think it's a classified port of entry on the Hudson River.
Albany, people come to Albany. They're welcomed. We're diverse. We're open to everybody, and people stay. They used to stay more. I want them to stay more. The sanctuary part is a special point in time where we had influx. Yeah. Quite frankly, I don't know where the laws are right now, and things are dying down and changing, but this is a problem in our country and obviously a bigger problem in New York State. My personal view is that anybody who gets to our country needs to be treated with respect and compassion. That goes without saying. And if they break the law, they break the law, and we take care of that, right? But I think we went too far. Declaring Albany a sanctuary city when we have so many of our own living on our streets is probably not. Again, this is timing, right? It's the same thing as the inclusionary housing. I am not against being a sanctuary city. I'm against being a sanctuary city right now. I'd like to take care of our own. So I would call all the mayors of the cities and the towns around Albany who are doing a little bit better than us right now and ask them to help. And then over time, things will balance out.
Do you think that would, anyway, hamstring the city from growth? Because a lot of the study, there was a congressional study done, and this is a national scale, that said the influx that happened over the course of the last couple of years would bring $7 trillion into the economy. And you wonder obviously this is a municipal scale, small scale, right. But you wonder if you cut that off, what that could mean.
Immigration made this country. If 100 years ago and 200 years ago we said we don't want those Irish and we don't want those German and we don't want those Italians, I'm sorry, that made this city. It made this country, right? So in general, immigration is exactly how this company has been built. I don't want to turn people away. We just got out of control. We let too many in and too many folks who may have brought problems with them. That's a national problem. At the end of the day, I don't think that's what's hurting Albany right today. As I walk around and meet people, I don't hear a lot of complaints about that. The people I meet in the street, I don't know how many of them are immigrants, recent immigrants. I don't know, but I want to help everybody who's on the street. They deserve our compassion. They deserve our support.
Let's talk about your background a little bit, because obviously you're a bit different than the others in terms of your political background in this race. Tell us about your background and why you think it can apply to being the mayor of this city.
So as a contrast to my opponents, my opponents are all, long-term politicians. They're career politicians. They've also been in this city, and they're very much responsible for what we have at some level. I'm not a politician. I'm running for mayor, and when I think about the job and the role of mayor, the mayor is a chief executive. They're a leader, right? They're an advocate, a chief advocate, if you will, right? So the job of a mayor is to bring people together, municipalities, legislatures, the governor, right? Businesses. I've been doing that for 35 years, right? I've had a number of jobs where we tackled complex problems, typically or quite often on the order of $200 million, which is the size of the city's budget, and hundreds of people. And I've done it again and again. And what I've been able to do is unify people around a vision, attract a team, find partners, make decisions, and ultimately get things done. And I think that's what this city needs right now. And that's basically why I'm running.
Does the nature of your work, do you think that can make an impact? You worked in the tech industry, or you did things that worked for IBM. Do you think that can apply here at all? Because we're living in a world. I'm looking through your background. We're living in a world where technology is moving very quickly, and people are looking for ways to make government more efficient, as we know. And I wonder if at all maybe you think that can play into how you do your business.
I think so, and I think that's fair. I've done a lot of stuff, and one of the common denominators is technology oriented, but not everything's been pure technology. The common denominator is big projects, bringing people together, bringing organizations together. That's highly relevant. Do I think we can improve the IT and bring some AI into the city? Yeah, I do. That stuff is second nature to me. So yes, I think we can be better, but again, that's not going to change our fundamental problems. The people on our street, the policing, the 1,000 empty lots that we have, using the 400 million, there's a technology element. But at the end of the day, Tom, I think it's about leadership, not necessarily technology and those kinds of things.
Towards the beginning of the interview, we asked about coming back and what you experienced. When you came back,
Yep.
Why? Why did you come back, and why do you want to stay?
Well, we're back home. What brought me back, ironically, was economic development work with the state. I was working on a big project to build a healthcare equivalent of what we did at Nanotech. And we had money, and I was the CEO of a venture that brought together St. Pete's and Albany Med, CDP and PHP, community care and capital care. So my philosophy at the time was, let's lift everybody, let's lift healthcare, and let's create a bunch of jobs in the city. And around that time, my wife said, isn't it time to go home? And the answer was yes. And we were coming home at one time or another, so I think the timing was right. And I'm glad to be home. My parents are still with us. My parents are up in the years. They have 23 grandchildren and 18 great-grandchildren, and a lot of them are here. And this is home. And now I have an opportunity to serve the city, and I'm excited about it.
What do you like, what do you love about the area, the city of Albany?
I love the diversity. People have always treated you the way you are, right? We're an ethnically diverse city, but we're integrated. At least we were integrated when I was a kid. And I think we still are for the most part. We have neighborhoods, but I was in Boston for a long time, and it's less integrated, right? Albany is one city. I played football for the Albany Maulers and the Albany Jets, and we drew from the entire city. My friends came from every neighborhood in the city, and it was a merit-based, who's good, and we were good. Yeah. And it has a good feel, and I still feel that here. And we just need to smooth things over a bit.
As a professional, I guess, and what you're looking at, how do you feel about the state influence? I guess, does that attract you more to the area of saying, you can go up, look up the street, you can walk up the street and go, maybe if you want, talk to a legislator. I guess I wonder, with that connectivity, not every mayor, mayors had to come yesterday from New York City and Rochester to go testify, but there's an access thing.
It's nice.
And it feels like from where I've been, I worked in Syracuse for a while, I've been around the state, and you do have the ability to connect, it feels like, in Albany, and now we were finally seeing some of that come to fruition for that investment.
I think it's essential. I think it's great. I lived in Austin, Texas, capital city. I saw the attention that Austin got. We lived in Boston for 20 years, capital city. States care about their capital cities. New York State, Empire State, capital city. Went down a little bit, got to pick it up. But the governor cares. So, yes, I think the working relationship in a capital city with the legislators, right, and the governor is essential. And we just need to do a little better with it, and we will.
Well, Dan, we really appreciate your time.
It's been fun.
All right.
Thanks for listening. Hit the subscribe button right now so you can stay up to date on these news-making conversations about the issues impacting New Yorkers the most: power and politics.